I flew back from my business trip on my 25th birthday. After Stella tipped me off about which VIP lounge Chase was in, I'd planned to surprise him, only to overhear something that turned my blood to ice. He'd been pining after the same woman for 7 years. Fine. If that was the case, I didn't want him anymore. Before we go any further, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're listening. I'm standing outside the lounge right now, listening to that low, magnetic voice of his deliver the news that makes my skin crawl. Chase, you're really going to marry Ivy Beaumont? What about Maya? I've always loved Ivy. If she hadn't looked so much like her, I never would have said yes when Maya asked me out. But Maya's been with you 7 years. So what? Ivy had to leave the country back then. Now she's back, and I've kept her spot open the whole time. Maya hears the cruelty through the door. Once, that voice had fascinated her, now it nauseates her. I can't take another second of the mockery. I turn and walk away. It feels like my heart is splitting in two. 7 years, how do you just erase that? For 7 years Chase had been nothing but attentive, chasing off the punks who harassed her, remembering her cycle and nagging her to stay warm, showing up downstairs the minute she texted that she felt sick. His phone had never been locked to her, his passcode was even her birthday. If that wasn't love, what was? By the time I push through the rooftop bar's doors, my cheeks are soaked. If he doesn't love me, I don't need him. Trash, let whoever wants him take him. When I reach Stella's place I'm calmer. Stella was shocked when Maya called, knowing her friend, she'd assumed Maya would be celebrating with Perfect tonight. Still, she picked up in case it was urgent. Hey, I'm downstairs, buzz me in. Okay, hang on. Bewildered, Stella opens the door and finds the person who should be on a romantic date standing there, eyes red from crying. She hurries May inside. What happened? Did that bastard hurt you? I swear she's already rolling up her sleeves. Maya stops her, draws a steadying breath, and repeats everything she overheard. What? He actually said that? Stella's indignation erupts. Yeah. My voice is flat. 7 years of love, my entire youth. What species of scumbag chases one woman while obsessing over another for 7 freaking years? And of all people, Ivy Beaumont. That green tea which stayed with your parents and secretly tried to turn them against you. Thank God they saw through her or she'd have stolen your mom and dad too. The memory makes Stella seethe. From grade school through middle school Ivy had lived with Maya's family, quietly snatching whatever she could. The Sterlings had taken her in out of kindness and wound up sheltering an ungrateful leech. Now she's stealing boyfriends too. How many 7-year chunks do we get? The moment his moonlight says yes, he bolts. What does that make you? Ivy's addicted to theft, and Chase is insane with his white moonlight fantasy. Scum and witch, perfect match. Stella's rage is so hot that if Chase were here she'd deck him on the spot. No way. We're not letting this slide. I'm getting you justice. Let it go, Stella. He may not love me, but these 7 years he did plenty. Call it a clean break. Exhaustion coats my words. I'm 25, years in the corporate grinder have burned the impulse out of me. At 18 I'd have stormed in and confronted him. But I'm an adult now, take it up, put it down. Let it stay a beautiful memory of the boy I once loved. So what's next? Stella asks, softening, heart aching for her ill-fated best friend. I'll end it properly. Keep my dignity intact. Then I'll take some time off. Whatever you need, I've got your back. Thanks. I'd be lost without you. Cut the thanks, we're sisters from different misters. They share a wobbly smile, words aren't necessary. That night Chase receives Maya's breakup text. Maya, we're done. I know about Ivy. Wish you both the best. Chase, who filled your head with lies? Are you mad I missed your birthday? I told you we're slammed at work. Maya, I heard every word in the lounge tonight. I'm stepping aside, so goodbye. No matter how he floods her with texts, she never answers, eventually she blocks him. Chase hurls his phone to the floor. He hadn't wanted her to find out, at least not until she signed that document. Damn it, why come back tonight of all nights? His face is dark, all the daytime polish of a refined air gone. I decide to stay at Stella's until I find a new place, then move out of the loft I've shared with Chase. The place had been his occasional crash pad back in college, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. After graduation he talked me into moving in. I resisted, but he wore me down. True, he had promised we'd wait until marriage, giving each of us our own room. Over the years he'd indulged my lack of security. We would officially be together only after the wedding. Business trips had kept us apart so often that our affection had always stopped at the line of propriety. I had taken all of that as proof of his love. How ridiculous it seems now. I was 19, a sophomore, the first time I met Chase. I'd been at a club social that night. On my way back, a stranger blocked my path. I was panicked and helpless when Chase, like some fairy tale prince, appeared and sent the creep running. I didn't know who he was at first. Only by chance did I find out later. At the beginning I thought that would be our only encounter. After all, he was the odds-on heir to the Hawthorne fortune, and I was just the ruined sterling heiress whose parents had died and whose family firm had collapsed. Yet, again and again, I kept running into him all over campus. Little by little we became familiar. However dense I could be, I felt Chase courting me, but I didn't dare give my heart. Had I still been the sterling princess of old, I'd love.I jumped in without hesitation, but I wasn't that girl anymore. The gulf between us was vast and, I was sure, unbridgeable. For a year he chased me, fussing over every tiny detail. When he learned my worries, he simply looked at me, deadly serious, and said, "Me liking you is my business, don't let it become a burden to you." I asked him, "Why would you fall for someone like me?" I still remember his starbright eyes. "You probably don't know this, but I've liked you for ages." At first I didn't realize it. I only wanted to look at you a little longer. Your happiness was mine, your sadness echoed in me. I wanted your eyes on me. Later, I envied every guy who showed up beside you. I think that was when I finally knew I'd fallen for you. After a year of being pursued, I agreed to be his girlfriend. Probably I'd walked straight into a trap called Chase. For 7 whole years he really was gentle, respectful, tolerant of every petty temper I threw. On the rare occasions he lost his cool, it was only because I'd hurt myself again. Whenever I'm sick I crave ice-cold popsicles. The first time I sneaked one and he caught me, the ever-gentle Chase lost his temper for the first time. I knew I'd been wrong, yet the moment he raised his voice I burst into tears. Instantly he reined the anger in and soothed me with helpless tenderness. Right then I believed I was the luckiest girl alive. I thought we'd build a home together, until, just now, the 7-year lie exploded. Even now I feel dazed. How could it all be fake? What was he after? Did he toy with me for sport? But 7 whole years. If it was an act, the monster inside him hid for an eternity. The next afternoon the doorbell rang. Thinking Stella had come home, I opened the door, only to find Chase. Before I could slam it shut he forced his way in. "What are you doing here?" I said, "Everything last night, we're over." "Maya, listen to me. It isn't what you think." "Stop. Wipe that phony look off your face. I never noticed before how thick-skinned and deaf you can be." Watching his face twist, I felt a flash of satisfaction and a wave of nausea. "Can't we part on good terms? Must you make it ugly? Part on good terms? Maya, you're so naive. What are you planning? Don't come any closer, this is breaking and entering." His eyes dark, Chase advanced step by step until I had nowhere left to retreat. "Maya, I admit when I first chased you I still loved her, but after 7 years together I've fallen for you, truly. Maya, give me another chance. Let's begin again." He pulled me into a crushing embrace, my whole body shook. "Let go of me." In panic I drove my knee hard into his groin. His face contorted in agony. "You'll regret this. Maya, don't push your luck. Without me bankrolling you these years, do you think you'd have graduated in peace? Get out. One more second and I'm calling 911 for trespass." Only after the door slammed behind him did the full weight of what had just happened settle over me. I'd told myself 1,000 times to let go, yet seeing the perfect boy of my memories reveal his true self still hurt so badly I couldn't breathe. He'd shattered even the last beautiful fragment. "Chase, you absolute bastard." But that only etched his ugliness more sharply into my mind, so I could never soften and forgive. The following day I went back to the firm. When I reached my desk I found a stranger sitting in my chair and every trace of my belongings gone. I kept my voice level. "Excuse me, you're in my seat." The woman looked startled. "Sorry, this is my desk now." The general manager reassigned it to me. I didn't argue. I walked straight to the GM's office. "Williams, why is someone else at my workstation?" He slid a document across the desk, a termination notice. I laughed in disbelief. I'd taken 2 days off and, right before that, closed a huge deal for the company. Now I was fired? I waved the paper. "What exactly does this mean?" "Yow, our firm is prestigious in Stroke, but we still can't afford to cross the Hawthorns. For the sake of your contributions I've secured you severance. Let's call it a clean break. Anyway, the board insists." "Fine. I get it. Where are my things?" "HR has them, ask Heather." Furious and humiliated, I kept my head high. Causing a scene would only leave me looking worse. I'd always known these people fawned over me only because Chase was on my arm. Now that the air had kicked me aside, the fact they weren't trampling me felt like luck. But why should I be the one to suffer? It was just a breakup, and I was the one who got hurt. Yet the almighty Chase only has to drop a hint about how he feels about me, and I'm the one who has to slink away like a criminal. I refuse to accept it. I fought tooth and nail for this well-paid, cushy job, and now, because of one sentence from that bastard, I'm back to square one. Chase, just you wait. Clutching my cardboard box of belongings, I stood on the curb like a stray dog waiting for a ride when I saw him, 6'3", tailored black suit hugging every line of his frame, deep-set eyes, blood-red lips, a face cut from granite, walking straight toward me. Only when he stepped under the streetlight did I recognize him, Grant, Chase's half-brother, the son of Theodore's dead first wife. In 7 years with Chase I'd met Grant exactly twice, once at the gala where I was officially introduced as Chase's girlfriend, once in the lobby of a hotel when I was on a business trip. I also knew Chase loathed him, the two were poison to each other. Sterling, would you do me the honor of sharing a drink? His voice was dark velvet, pure grown man charisma. The honor is mine. I inclined my head, climbed into his Rolls Royce, and decided to find out what game he was playing. I hear you've been let go. Any interest in coming to work for my firm? I swirled the crystal flute of red and gave a lazy laugh. CEO Hawthorne, you're joking. I lost my job indirectly because of the Hawthorne family. Personally, Sterling, I admire your talent. Unlike Chase, I don't let sentiment cloud business. Aren't you afraid of tearing the family apart? Chase is the old man's favorite. If dear little brother whines, which side do you think Hawthorne will take? Tell me, do you know why Chase lied to you for 7 years? My gaze snapped to his jet black eyes, then dropped. Only the white knuckles wrapped around my glass betrayed how naked I felt. I'm not trying to insult you. Do you remember the document your parents left you? He caught my blank look. How could Chase's 7-year con be tied to a file? Did Grant want it too? He wants what's in that document. I don't know exactly what, but only you and he do. Damn it. I was seconds from losing control. That file was the last thing Mom and Dad left me. One part was a single-use Pentagon contact, only to be burned in a life-or-death crisis. I'd begged them to cash it in when the Sterlings were being hunted, but they insisted on saving it for me. Before I could sneak a call, the accident happened, the police found nothing. That was the moment I realized I was a lone lamb against an invisible wolf. The second part was the so-called family treasure ledger, supposedly handed down for generations. Every Sterling knew there was no buried gold, just a few inherited antiques. Pathetic. People had slaughtered my family for a mirage. So, CEO Hawthorne, what do you want from me today? Grant chuckled softly, set down his crystal flute, and lounged back like a king surveying a map. Who says the prize I want isn't you? I frowned. If you won't clarify, I'll be leaving. Let's work together. I was halfway out of my seat when his voice rang across the table, flat, certain, no joke. Fine. I waited for 2 seconds and accepted. Next month, West Rail. His floor bid is this number. Sterling, here's your recommendation letter to LY. To a productive alliance. To us. Westrail was the city's new commuter rail expansion. Land prices were exploding. With Hawthorne's muscle the contract was winnable, and Theodore had assigned Chase an elite task force. Land it, and Chase would be untouchable. Grant would be shoved aside for good. No wonder Grant came knocking. Honestly, Chase isn't half the man Grant is. Without Daddy's favor he couldn't get hired middle management. I used to ghostwrite his strategies. Left to his own arrogant devices he'd have crashed years ago. Favor, what a joke, a soap bubble. Let's see how far he flies without his safety net. The next morning I walked into LY with the letter in hand. The gaming unicorn had been launched by Adrian, Eastbrook's newest wunderkind. Grant had done his homework. Back when I was still a sterling heiress I spent my days sketching doll clothes. My college major was fashion design. After the bankruptcy I added finance, pouring so many hours into it that few people knew my real degree. I kept the design credit as a souvenir of the family that no longer existed. After work I ran into Ivy Beaumont, clearly lying in wait. A delicate, snow-skinned beauty glided toward me, all wounded grace. I kept my face ice cold. Sister Maya, won't you have a drink with me? I wanted to say hell no, but curiosity won. Chase was already hers, what was left to gloat about? Haha, Maya, I'm so sorry. 7 years ago Chase did confess to me, but back then I thought he was kind of childish, so I turned him down. I never imagined he's kept loving me all this time, and now, well, really, I'm sorry, sis. I sat wooden-faced, staring blankly at Ivy Beaumont wriggling and posing in front of me. She wasn't bad-looking, so how did she manage to be this obnoxious? She said she'd found Chase immature. Pretty sure what she really meant was that, 7 years ago, she'd scorned him for being a penniless bastard still outside the Hawthorne gates. I couldn't be bothered arguing the point. If you don't get to the point, I'm leaving. I started to stand. Ivy yanked me back down by the hem of my jacket. I know these past 7 years Chase has been good to you, but none of that was love. He was just being kind, then got used to treating you well. So please, stop pestering him. His girlfriend now is me. Oh, thank you so much for taking out the trash. Honestly, since our breakup text a month ago I haven't contacted that garbage once. Instead, the trash used Hawthorne influence to get me fired. The fact I haven't gone over and punched him already shows how classy I am. The words erupted out of me like machine gun fire, every ounce of frustration, grievance, and suffocation I'd bottled up gushing forth. You two are a match made in heaven, do lock yourselves together and never cross my path again. Without bothering to check her expression, I stalked out of the cafe. Chances were Ivy's face was spectacularly ugly right then, but I felt wonderful. Nothing beats cursing someone you despise. If once isn't enough, do it twice. My calm returned quickly. I pulled out my phone and called Grant. The line rang for ages before he picked up. Has something happened to Chase lately? I didn't believe Ivy had sought me out for no reason. Chase must have fed her some story. His voice was still that same sexy baritone, weariness etched beneath it. Grant rubbed his temples and spilled everything that had gone down at Hawthorne. 3 weeks ago Chase lost his mind and clashed with a partner, offending the man so badly the guy yanked his capital overnight. 2 weeks ago Victor handed him a project brief. What he turned in was way below his old standard, yet he still nitpicked his subordinates in public. The staff couldn't take it and collectively complained to Victor. Then 3 days ago he swaggered into a meeting with a new client and, in a single sitting, killed one of Hawthorne's biggest deals. The board is howling to strip him of his VP title. Grant finally understood why, 7 years back, Chase had been an presentable bastard, yet after dating me had morphed into a courteous, idea-generating paragon. There'd been a hidden mentor pulling the strings. Chase, oh Chase, you're as dumb as you were 7 years ago. Drop the watermelon, pick up the sesame seed, only now the watermelons landed in my lap. Sure enough, within days the news that Hawthorne had ousted Chase as VP flew through every corner of Eastbrook. Under Victor's frantic protection, though, he kept the empty title of general manager, clearly waiting for another chance to shove his darling son to the top. Grant watched the report with open sarcasm. What's wrong, Hawthorne? Heartbroken? I wore the delighted expression of someone enjoying a spectator sport, which succeeded in irritating a laugh out of him. I stared at that devastating smile, saliva almost betraying me and dribbling out. Why did the man have to be so gorgeous? He nearly made my heart skip. Sterling, are you pleased with the current show? His handsome face loomed closer, eyes deep and sharp, yet gentling the instant they met mine. He braced one arm on the back of my seat, boxing me in. Without hesitation I shoved him away, trying to puncture the sudden tension. Grant yielded to my push, tone tinged with regret. Such a shame, Sterling. Right then a blinding glare speared through the windshield. My eyes snapped wide, a sedan was barreling straight at us. For an instant the world froze. I could even see the driver's crazed grin, and the memory of my parents' crash began to loop inside my skull. Bang! Crash! Thud! I heard nothing after that, only sensed a body flinging itself over me, then darkness. When I opened my eyes again, everything was hospital white. Remembering Grant beside me, I jerked upright just as the door opened. Stella rushed in. Hey! Yow, Maya, lie back down. She darted to my side and eased me onto the pillow. I'm fine, just a little dizzy. Where's Grant? I pressed my spinning forehead. He's okay, but hurt worse, still UNC. Unctuous. The paramedics said he shielded you, that's why you got off light. Spill it, what's going on between you two? Don't tell me. Her face grew more gossipy by the second. I fought the urge to roll my eyes. We're nothing. If you must label it, partners. I nodded firmly, determined my best friend wouldn't link me romantically to anyone from the Hawthorne clan. And I've figured a lot out lately. I'm not touching relationships for a long, long time. All I want is to find whoever destroyed the Sterling family. You know as well as I do, when Mom and Dad died and the firm collapsed, I couldn't just waltz off with the man I loved. The love was real, but so was the calculation. The frontline culprits are mostly mapped out, yet the mastermind is still beyond my reach. which was why I'd teamed up with Grant without a second thought. One of his uncles sits high in the Pentagon. That kind of pull could prove indispensable. And he, in turn, was using me, mutual exploitation, nothing more. Stella gazed at the pale yet still exquisite face in front of her, chilled by the icy detachment that settled over it. Once upon a time I'd been a starry-eyed girl, now only cool resolve remained. She dared not imagine what would be left of me once vengeance was complete. The next afternoon, Grant finally opened his eyes. The moment I heard he was awake I hurried into the neighboring room. His handsome face was drained of every last drop of color, dead white, bandages circling his torso while his assistant struggled to prop him up. I crossed the floor in 2 quick strides and helped settle him against the pillows. How do you feel? Should I call the doctor back? No, I'm all right. Worried about me? His voice was husky, yet the teasing lilt was still there. I poured a glass of water and pressed it into his hand. Talk less. Drink. Heather, his assistant, chose that moment to speak. Hawthorne, we've traced the crash. The second young master hired the driver. Here are the details. Ever tactful, she placed the folder in my hands. After I read every page, I couldn't help swearing out loud. Was Chase an idiot? The man who'd approached the driver had been his own trusted assistant. No wonder Heather had cracked the case so fast. Worse, Chase's fingerprints were all over the accident that had killed Grant's parents. I crushed the papers so tightly my knuckles went white, pain shooting through my fingers without my noticing. I fixed Heather with a razor stare. Everything in this file, it's all verified? It was phrased as a question, but my tone left no room for doubt. Under that glare Heather brushed an imaginary bead of sweat from her forehead and answered firmly, it's genuine. Good. Wonderful. How very like him. Fury twisted into a laugh. I shoved the door open with such force the handle slammed the wall, then strode out before my fist found the jaw of the only other Hawthorne in sight. Even if the crash hadn't been Grant's doing, rage doesn't ask for logic. Hawthorne, Sterling, Heather began uncertainly. Leave her. Let her cool off, Grant cut in. Where are we on the rest? Almost there, sir. Final touches left. 2 weeks later the board voted Chase out, stripping him of every title and share. An anonymous envelope arrived at police headquarters, ledgers of embezzlement, contracts forcing girls to sign away their lives in the rooftop bar he owned, and evidence tying him to the fatal accident. Multiple charges stacked 40 years on top of one another. Once the dazzling second son of the Hawthorne dynasty would spend the rest of his life behind bars, while Grant, competent, feared, meticulous, became the man everyone wanted on their side. Overnight he seized real control of Hawthorne. Officially Victor still sat at the head of the table, but the power now flowed through Grant's hands. Congratulations, Hawthorne, Hawthorne is yours. I lifted my crystal flute in salute. The victory belongs to you, Sterling. Without your move he pieces would still be frozen. Chase, after all, had been the publicly anointed heir. However inept, he'd been ring-fenced by Victor's sharpest lieutenants. Yet I had catalogued his habits for 7 years. Once I looked, every lie surfaced. I'd simply refused to see them while I was busy begging for warmth and affection. Love makes excellent blindfolds. There's more, I said. Thank you for uncovering the truth about my parents. Whatever you need from me, name it. It was the least I could do. Your mother and father once saved my life. As for the Sterlings, leave that to me. Seeing the question still on my face, Grant began to speak of the past. He was 10 the year his mother died and he learned Victor had kept a mistress and a bastard only 2 months younger than himself. Theodore, still alive then, had barred the woman and her son from the family gate, sparing Grant a childhood under a stepmother's shadow, but the wound had already cut deep. The day the mistress brought the boy to the estate, 10-year-old Grant blocked them on the sidewalk. In the scuffle she shoved him backward, his head struck a landscaping stone. At the sight of blood she fled, leaving him bleeding on the grass. Richard and Eleanor happened to be driving past and rushed the unconscious child to hospital, minutes from fatal blood loss. For the next month I handed the so-called Sterling family treasure ledger to the authorities through Grant's uncle. That ledger had cost my family everything. I would not keep such poison near me again. Better to surrender it to the state and buy safety. Using the ledger as my calling card, I filed a full report on the Sterling case. A federal task force was formed overnight. Within weeks 2 well-known Eastbrook conglomerates collapsed, sending tremors through every boardroom in the city. A high-ranking Pentagon official followed them into prison on bribery and graft charges, dragging a chain of underlings behind him. When the dust finally settled a year had slipped past. I had passed the civil service exam and was working at the Eastbrook Bureau. The idea of becoming an examiner had surfaced in my senior year, but grief had still owned me, and Chase had sneered at the notion, so I'd shelved it. I never abandoned the plan, though. Every year I reviewed the textbooks. After what happened to the Sterlings, I trusted no corporation, only a government paycheck felt solid. And after Chase, trusting anyone at all felt impossible. As for Grant, Stella asked me the question everyone wondered: would I ever say yes to him again? My answer was no. When the curtain fell, I already knew my path: serve the city, give the rest of my life to the badge. Perhaps Grant sensed it, he never pushed the line. In spare hours we still met for tea and idle talk like old friends, but I could offer nothing more. We are travelers of the same era, safe journeys and bright horizons are enough. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you liked this video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.